Elna's presentation today is from her new book, which has a working title of Dying for Profits. And it's about how our American system of healthcare for the aged is failing us. And, we need to think about that. And so I'm really excited about seeing this. And thank you again for being here. Welcome, Elna Tymes.
Yeah, this is what this one is about. We're going to be talking about what a population is affected and why it's important. And we're going to be talking about who these people are and what kind of conditions they have. We're going to be talking about why you would be considering taking care of your parents no longer at home and what the options are. And we're going to be talking about several different kinds of options, some of which are available at home and some of which are requiring some institutional kinds of care. So if that's okay, okay, one of the things that defines what a person's functioning capabilities are is what are called activities of daily living, or ADL. And the things listed here on the slide are the kinds of activities that you can use to measure whether somebody needs help or whether they can function independently. Most adults have grown up believing that they can function fine as adults all the way through death. And the truth is, no, that's not quite accurate. As you get older, sometimes things get in the way. Like, for instance, you fall, which can break your hip, which may mean that you wind up having to be in a walker for the rest of your life, or even in a wheelchair. Some of the other things may be a heart attack that requires you to be on oxygen for the rest of your life, which means carrying around a little portable oxygen generator. That's inconvenient to a lot of people, but they get used to it. Another thing can be a stroke, where you lose some of your cognitive capabilities. Some of the things that get affected by a stroke can be fixed, and some of them can't. And you have to learn how to live the rest of your life dealing with that. Some of these things can be things like Alzheimer's or one of the other dementias that get in the way of your ability to think, to process, to solve problems, to do things, to remember things like, for instance, your son or daughter's name. And by the way, not being able to remember the names of people you met at a party last night isn't dementia. It is normal aging. And there's a difference between normal aging and the kinds of cognitive problems that can develop. So just because you can't remember the name of somebody you met last week doesn't mean that you have dementia. But there's some other things. For instance, if you need help going to the bathroom, or you need help taking a bath or showering, or you need help getting dressed, you can't remember how to button a shirt, for instance. Or personal hygiene, like, you haven't shampooed your hair in a month. That's the problem. Or things like you forget what a fork is for. And you can't feed yourself because you don't know how to get the food from the plate in front of you to your mouth without doing it with your fingers. As a functioning adult, you don't think about those things, but they happen to more and more people. And another one would be walking, and especially climbing stairs. If you have problems with that, that may be a reason for you to consider some other option of living. And finally, you don't know how to deal with emergency responses. Like, for instance, if you live in Buffalo right now, and you were called at 1 a.m. to evacuate your house because the levee broke, you might not know what to do. And somebody would have to come and get you and help you out of the house, and you'd be very confused about why it is you have to leave your comfy bed at 1 a.m. And the answer was, when you get outside, is because the streets are flooded and you can't get out. Now, those are common kinds of things that go along with signs that you are not able to function as independently as you used to, and you probably need some sort of help. So that's one of the things we're going to be talking about. Another thing we're going to be talking about is instrumental activities of daily living, and these are things that are not quite as obvious. And they can include such things as driving. Have you ever been with somebody who really shouldn't be driving a car anymore? And as you probably know, getting them to give up the car keys is very difficult. There are tips for doing that, but it is a sign of independence. Getting somebody to admit they're not independent is very difficult. Another one, they forget how to get groceries. They know how to go to the store, but they don't remember the layout of the store or where, for instance, you can find tomatoes as opposed to tomato sauce. Or, for instance, you need to pick up a prescription, but you go to the aisle that has things like suntan oil and bandages, but they don't have the pills that you're supposed to get. You don't remember how to get to the pharmacy that has your pills. Or, for instance, you know that you're supposed to take pills every day, but you don't remember what all they are. And so you may have a set of little pill boxes on your bedside table, but you don't remember what you're supposed to take or when. Furthermore, you don't remember how to read those things. Or, for instance, you don't know how to clean your house. And so rather than deal with the difficult task of finding a vacuum cleaner and knowing how to use it, just let it go. Pretty soon, your floors get to feel pretty gritty. The bathroom needs cleaning, and you don't know how to do that. Or you forget how to do dishes, so they pile into your sink. Those are things that are signs that you may need some help. Another one might be running the kinds of errands. Like, for instance, you have bills that you have written out the checks for, and they're sitting in an envelope on your dining room table, ready to go out. But you can't remember how to get them to a place where they would be picked up, whether that's your mailbox outside of your house or a mailbox 2 blocks down. Forgetting how to do that is one of the signs that maybe something is wrong. And a big one, of course, is managing your own finances. Rather than deal with bills, you let them pile up until 3 months later, it is threatening to cut off your power. Things like that seem to indicate that there's a problem that somebody needs to help you address. So those are things just to watch out for. So what do you do with care at home? Lots of things. Many people insist that they are going to stay in their home because it's comfortable, they know it, they know where to find things, or at least they think they do. They know, for instance, where the bathroom is, where the kitchen is, how to turn on lights, how to turn off lights, how to turn on a TV set, all the other things that they're comfortable with at home. Moving them out of their home represents saying goodbye to all these familiar things and having to learn a whole new set of geography, of how to move around a facility. What about your friends and your neighbors? You used to be able to see them like this, because you used to say hello to the dog next door every time you went for a walk. Well, there isn't a dog next door. There are all these kinds of things that actually make it more comfortable to you to stay at home. And for some patients or some people, staying at home with services brought in is an option that needs to be considered by those who are willing to take care of your needs. And this can be a family member or a caregiver or both, or a friend, or whoever winds up taking that responsibility for you. Some of the appropriate kinds of care require nurses or healthcare aides or even therapists. And some of these people will come to your home and can be hired on an hourly basis, and care can be provided for you at home. They cost. Nurses cost upwards of $25 an hour. Home care aides cost somewhere from $20 on, depending on which county you're living in and what kind of care they're willing to provide. Therapists cost more than that. $60 to $75 an hour, depending on what kind of therapy they're providing. But this can be done at home. And sometimes if finances are a problem, this may be the answer to how do you get care. On the other hand, if you do stay at home, somebody needs to be there to take care of you. Whether that is an unpaid family member or a paid caregiver is really up to the kinds of finances that you can bring to bear on the problem. Most home care, however, eventually requires family members to be there at least part of the time. Nurses and home care aides and therapists really don't work at night or weekends. Somebody has to be there to be able to take care of you when those people are not available. Also, somebody needs to be able to connect with you to a doctor's office or to a lab, a patient pickup, or even to screening facilities or to therapy locations when the therapist can't be at home. There are many monitoring devices and equipment that can be woven to use at home. We have a lot of monitoring activities that can be done on a cell phone. We have small meters that, for instance, can measure the amount of chemicals in your blood. We have monitors that are about the same size that can measure your blood pressure. There are a number of other kinds of monitors that we can measure the components in your urine, and that can be transmitted electronically to your doctor's office so that he or she knows you are unbound, that you know that there's a problem. Not everything, however, can substitute for the kind of care that you would be getting in a more restricted facility, such as assisted living or even nursing home. This is kind of up to you and your family to analyze and decide whether, in fact, you can stay at home or whether you really need to move to a facility where that care is available. One of the big problems, of course, is what I refer to as the club sandwich generation of extended families of 4 different levels. The children, the working adults, the semi-retired adults or the older adults who are still working but not quite ready to retire, and then finally the retired adults who are living on whatever retirement income they have, sometimes all 4 living in the same house, and that can be exciting. But frequently the older people think that they should be able to take care of the financial needs of the younger people, and the younger people are supposed to be able to help provide the labor. Except that doesn't always work, particularly in the case of the parents of young children who have to work and raise children at the same time and then have to take on the burden of trying to care for an older adult who needs attention. So family dynamics are an issue sometimes. Now, what are some of the other options that are available to you? One of them, the least caregiving kind of environment, are just simple senior retirement or residential communities. This is usually for people who are 55 or older, generally who do not have children living with them, who just want to live in a community where the focus is on older adults and the kinds of things that they need. Most of these residential communities have either a building or a collection of buildings. Sometimes they offer many different options within that, where you live in a unit that is a standalone house or a standalone cottage, or in some cases it could be something like a duplex or triplex, or it could be part of a building with 4 or 5, even as many as 10 different floors in it. Sometimes there is a recreational program that goes along with this that you are free to join. Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes there is some form of social worker or caregiver representative who works out of the lobby and can provide the kinds of things that you might need. It really depends on the residential community as to what services they have, and they will charge you for those. On the other hand, you're expected to provide your own meals, usually. You're expected to be able to cook and clean up and to take care of your own transportation. So this is living alone, but in a community. Sometimes the benefits of these communities are that they form informal social groups. There's one group, for instance, in San Jose that is for low-income people who are of Asian descent. And I spoke to them about 4 months ago, and they decided to form a party around my talk. And the net effect has been that they are meeting every week on a Friday or Saturday night for a potluck dinner where everybody brings something, and they party, they talk, they dance, they sing, they do all sorts of things together at this little party. Now, that's not a formal kind of relationship. It just started because they found other people who wanted to socialize. That can happen. It helps make up for the kinds of social activities that you might miss by staying at home. Okay. Then we can move on to assisted living facilities. What are they? These are usually larger buildings that have individual rooms, 1 or 2 bedroom units, that are designed around the needs of an older adult who may or may not have some functional disabilities. Most of them have to do with mobility, but it can be things like mild cognitive impairment where you're not really diagnosed with dementia yet, but there are things that they're watching. They offer limited medical and physical kinds of assistance. And of course, the more you want, the more you have to pay for. There are nurses available, but usually the care is provided by certified nursing assistants or other people who have lower level kinds of credentials. It can work for those who have mild cognitive impairment up to a point. And if the impairment gets worse, you may need to consider moving on to another kind of facility. There we go. And then we move on to nursing homes. Nursing homes provide care for those who need medical management and supervised living. Frequently, the people who live there have some sort of cognitive impairment that can come from dementia, from Alzheimer's, from Parkinson's, or some of the other kinds of diseases, their ability to think, to make decisions, and to know how to do certain kinds of things. Their license requires that a certified nurse, be on duty 24/7, and that an attending doctor be available on call 24/7 for a resident who needs that kind of care. In the nursing homes around the country, staffing can be a problem because of the lower pay that medical providers other than nurses, lower than nurses, want to be able to get. In Santa Clara County, the minimum wage for home care providers is now $20 an hour. I dare you to find a place in Santa Clara County where you could live on $20 an hour in a place by yourself, as if your job were to be providing care in a nursing home. Many times the nursing homes are understaffed, frequently by design, by the hedge funds that buy nursing homes that were doing a good job and then fail to hire enough staff to cover the people. And you wind up with situations like I described at the beginning of this talk, where staff that is underpaid and therefore not able to come in to work all the time, or for instance, they don't have sick leave, will either try to work extra shifts, which means they're working 7 days a week, or they will simply come to work sick. And in the process of being sick, going from patient to patient, they spread whatever it is that's going around, whether that's COVID or the flu or RSV or anything else that's contagious. Getting called on this by licensing authorities is difficult because the state licensing authorities don't have enough people to go and investigate every claim that comes up. This can be a serious problem when there aren't enough staff to take care of the people who, for instance, need a bed change because they wet their bed and they've been lying in the same soaked bed for 48 hours. Or, for instance, they have bed sores that need attending and the staff has been too busy to get to them. Those are not uncommon kinds of things that happen. You can check it when you look at nursing homes to see whether there's any signs of too short staff, but they're very good at hiding that. So be aware of the fact that a nursing home, while it may be licensed to take care of somebody who really can't live at home, may not have the kinds of staff necessary to take the kind of care that your loved one needs. There are abilities in most of the counties in California to call the ombudsman for your county and complain. That complaint gets registered with the state authorities, and somebody from the ombudsman office usually will respond. The problem is that their job is to investigate and respond, not to cure. So they do what they can, and there's a limit to what can be done. So be careful. And then there's hospitals. Most hospitals are set up so that they are attending to immediate emergency needs, not for long-term care, although some hospitals have a long-term care wing. Financially, hospitals are motivated to concentrate on procedures that provide the most income. And those are things like surgery or various kinds of intervention that require special equipment and specially trained people. And they're not really designed to take care of longer-term people who need care periodically or just monitoring to make sure that they're okay. So hospitals are motivated to fix you to the best of their ability and then find another place for you to go. Until recently, however, there was a problem with that transition from hospital to wherever. There have been cases in Santa Clara County where the patient in a wheelchair was left on the sidewalk in front of the hospital for 6 to 12 hours because nobody bothered to contact the person or the staff at the destination facility. And nobody noticed that the patient was sitting there in the cold on the sidewalk. That has been changed, or has been addressed pretty much with a hospital-to-home program, which, if executed, takes care of that. As a patient in the hospital, you get visited by a hospitalist who is concerned with what your plans are next, and those things are noted on your file. And so when it gets time to discharge you, that facility is noted, and the person called, and arrangements are made for them to come and pick you up, or for a taxi to come get you, or something like that. However, it is all too easy to lose track of people in the hospital and have their care ignored, not because somebody was not doing their job, but because something fell through the cracks. Hospitals are great for handling emergencies and for the immediate care that some people need. Do not count on them for long-term care. Now, one additional problem is that hospitals are failing left and right. And the reason has been because of the demands placed on the hospitals by COVID. There have simply been too many people needing care for the kind of serious damage that COVID can do, to the extent that cases of patients winding up on gurneys in the hallway for 48 hours while they wait for a room to become available so that they can be admitted to the hospital. As long as you are not admitted, you are not necessarily covered by Medicare or Medicaid or your private insurance. And you may be then billed later on for lying on a gurney in the hallway for however time it takes for somebody to notice you. That's not just a scare tactic or a scare incident. That has happened around here as well. Around here in the state, for instance, we have hospitals who are going under financially, like, for instance, the one in Madera. Madera is up in the hills, well, kind of in the hills. And the Madera General Hospital was the only one serving patients within a 150-mile radius, and it filed bankruptcy. There are, at the moment, about 15 people still on staff in the process of closing down the hospital. But when the hospital closed its doors, so did emergency care for anybody living in a 150-mile radius of the hospital. There are no closer facilities. Can you imagine what it's like to be up there now with snow causing all the restrictions on movement, and at the same time, no hospital being available within the next 150 miles? That's a reality. Luckily, here in urban Santa Clara County, that's not as big a problem, although some hospitals are really in trouble. And then we have memory care facilities. Memory care facilities are special care facilities that are set up to handle the needs of people who have serious cognitive problems. This is frequently where Alzheimer's patients wind up when they become too burdensome to care for at home. They have activities, they have lots of monitoring. There are problems with Alzheimer's patients where, for instance, there's something called sundowning, where when the sun goes down, Alzheimer's people like to go for a walk. And they look for any way to get out and get for a walk around the block. The problem is that they don't know where the block is.
Roberta, we're not hearing Elna again. Elma, we're not hearing you. Or I'm not.
I'm not either. There's a problem.
Oh, okay. Elna, can you hear us? Let me try this. Elna, can you see us, hear us? Roberta, is your phone off?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there isn't much left to do on this presentation, so let me get to the last couple of slides, and then we can take questions. Is that okay?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, hold on a second here. Oh, I don't believe it. Here we go. Okay, palliative care is a kind of care that is designed for the more or less the end stage of life. It is a program that is funded by the government, and it involves taking care of you with special.
One more thing, Elna.
Can you, are you hearing her now? Because
I can hear you, but I stopped your screen sharing. Push screen sharing again to get your attention.
Okay, so the screen sharing is off now.
Yeah.
It focuses on relief from physical suffering and from other kinds of effects of a disease that involves your ability to live comfortably, even if you're confined to a bed. It addresses the patient's physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being, and is appropriate for patients in all disease stages, and it accompanies the patient from diagnosis to cure. This is particularly used for cancer patients who've been given a terminal diagnosis and do want to explore some of the alternate kinds of care that are available. This does use life-prolonging medication. It uses a multidisciplinary approach from very highly trained professions, and is usually offered where you first sought treatment, although it can be offered at home, providing you can get the specialist to come in and visit you. It is one of two government-funded options for end-of-life kinds of care. The other kind of government-funded end-of-life care is hospice care. I can tell you from experience that hospice care is wonderful. However, it is not designed to prolong. It is designed to simply make the patient comfortable while dealing with an end-of-life situation. Patients have to have stopped the payments to cure, or treatments to cure whatever it is that's going on. And they usually are predicted to have 6 months or less to live. You can have palliative care at any age and at any stage of your disease. But under hospice care, it is expected that you are going to die within the next 6 months. The length of time that this care lasts varies from state to state. In California, it's 6 months. In the state of Washington, where I experienced it with my mother, it was 6 months. But it can vary, and under Medicaid, it can also vary. And as I said, hospice care is focused on making a patient comfortable and preparing both the patient and the family for what's going to come. It's extremely useful in terms of both equipment and intelligent care that is provided at no cost to those who are dying. And finally, what kinds of documents should you have towards the end of life? And this slide is actually a list of the kinds of things that I think you should have available. One of which is a living will. This is an ongoing document that you can modify all the way up to the night before you die. It has to do with things like the do not resuscitate order, which everybody should have, and that is a piece of paper that says either do prolong life-giving care or do not provide long care. It helps, for instance, to have that under a magnet in your refrigerator, so that when the paramedics come because you have done something really bad, they know where to look, and they know whether you are there to resuscitate you or not resuscitate you. It is good for dealing with such things as extreme pain or tube removal. For instance, if you don't want to be intubated for the rest of your life, or medication, whether you need it or not, it makes you funny, makes you not think, makes you fuzzy, makes you throw up, whatever it is. It's good for dialysis. And then there's the last will and testament, which is a formal document that you really should not change within the month before you die. And it is your last will. In other words, this is what you want your estate executor to read in terms of both what's to happen to you and what's to happen to you after you die, and what it is that's to happen to your estate. A living trust, of course, which owns your assets until you die, is another way of dealing with things, particularly when you want to pass on property to your heirs without necessarily forcing them to pay taxes on them. These are things that you should discuss with a good attorney, but these are options that are available. One of the things that should be available is a letter of intent from your doctor that basically covers what is it that you want done just after you die. In other words, are you going to have a funeral? Who gets your debts? Who are the beneficiaries in your will? Do you have any debts that need to be paid? Or what are the passwords to your account? This is a useful thing to have around for the person who is supposed to take over for you as you die. And then there are two kinds of powers of attorney that are useful. One of which is the power of attorney for legal and financial affairs, and the other one is the power of attorney for health affairs. The power of attorney for legal and financial matters allows somebody you designate to pay your bills and to answer legal questions or to take actions on your behalf that requires, for instance, a signature. A power of attorney for health care is addressed to the people in the hospital or nursing home or wherever you are as to what it is that needs to be done if you, for instance, have, if you pass out and there's a question as to whether they want to resuscitate you or not, and they don't know whether you should or should not be resuscitated because you didn't file a do not resuscitate order. This gives this person the power to either pull the plug or insist on further care. And this person is then acting on your behalf. And it's well worth having something like that so that the nurses and others who are trying to figure out what to do with you when you're critical know what you want. The letter of competency is another thing from your doctor that basically says that you are competent when you sign the letter to make decisions about your life and your death. It is useful to have in order to tell the estate that you were of sound mind when you made these kinds of decisions. It's very simple. Doctors know how to do this, not to worry about it. And the final thing, which everybody should have, is an organ donor card. And if you don't carry one in your wallet, I would recommend it. You can also sign up for it online, and then it becomes part of the state's database as to whether you are willing to donate your organs once you're done with them. Organ donors wind up saving the lives of anywhere from 3 to 40 people based on the kinds of things that donating your body can provide. Things like eyes or ears, skin grafts, nasal passages, livers, hearts, various other kinds of organs, even muscle tissue that can be used in other places. I consider it an extremely useful thing to do. That's up to you to decide what you want to do. And I believe that's the end. Oh, excuse me, Will. All right. There's the explanation for what those things are. So, we're done with my part of the site. This is how you get a hold of me. I am willing to answer questions or talk you through a problem. Email works every day. And I'm usually available at the phone. If not, somebody takes the message, or my phone takes the message, and I return calls. So that will be the end of what I want to say. Let me know what your questions are.
Thank you so much, Elna. So I don't have all of the chat questions here, but one of them I put down. Nikki Winkler had to leave, but she, as you may know, Elna, is in a Channing house. And she said that that is a life care facility where she can move up. She's in independent living now. She can move up to assisted living, and then full nursing care. Are you familiar with her and her where she's living?
Not with her, but I am very familiar with Channing House.
Oh, okay. So what do you think of it?
I think Channing House is doing a wonderful job, and I wish that more facilities did have life care. The problem is that you have to enter with a lot of resources because you're signing up for a 15, 20, even 30 years of care that is going to escalate as you get older. And the question is, do you provide enough resources going in to be able to pay for all of that? Some people can afford it, some people cannot. But the idea of staying in one place while you age through various stages of bodies not functioning is very much a good idea. There are several such facilities around Santa Clara County. The Sequoias out in Porto Valley is an example. Channing House is another one. And there are places that offer life care as well as assisted living or even nursing home care, depending on what it is that you're after. So yes, I'm in favor.
So, you know, I find it confusing because I know that a friend of ours, Mary Lou, so she went for a while, she was living at Lake Merritt
Right.
House, and that she paid just month to month, and then that was it. She decided she wanted to go home, and she went home. Now Kathy Roja, she's moved to a retirement facility in Maryland to be near her brother and sister-in-law, and she's, you know, in very good health, but she had to buy into it. It costs $650,000
Right.
to buy into. Then she pays, I believe, $4,000 or $5,000 a month for meals and housekeeping. So
and access to recreational facilities and sometimes transportation, and it really depends on what it is that the facility offers. But yeah.
Yeah. But why the big difference? You know, I understand her heirs will not be able to get back much, if any, of that money. So why is there some places where it's month to month and other places it's a huge upfront?
Well, let me give you an example. Around here, nursing home costs minimally $8,000 a month, up to about $15,000 or $17,000 a month for the kind of care that is needed within a nursing home. And that provides for meals and recreational facilities and transportation and things like that. Assisted living costs less than that, but you don't have access to the other kinds of services that you get in a nursing home. Living in a senior residential community, again, costs less than an assisted living facility because there are not access to the kinds of services that the next tier up provides. So it's all a case of you pay for what you want, and paying $650,000 to buy in is like buying an insurance policy that you will be cared for the rest of your life. However, in her particular case, she wants meals and some of the other kinds of added things as well, so he's paying another $4,000 or so a month for these kinds of extra services. It varies all over.
Wow. And that's pretty amazing. She was able to do it because she sold her house in Berkeley.
Exactly.
Otherwise,
Usually people.
she would, never have been able to afford, something like that. But
Right.
so yeah, so we have to not only do when we're older, but how to pay for it.
Yeah. Well, see, some people would rather transfer their house to their heirs.
Right.
Other people would rather use that money to buy into comfort of living and knowing what's going to happen over the next, whatever it is, 15 to 30 years of their life.
Right.
It's your choice.
Right. Right. Great. Stephen wants to know if he can get a copy of the slides.
Absolutely.
So what would that be contacting you?
Yes.
And then you can get them. So yeah, so Stephen, contact Elna.
The last slide had my email address on it.
Right. So it's Elna Tymes
at gmail.com.
at gmail.com. So there you go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have any other questions, Stephen?
No other questions.
Great. How about Carrie or Nyla? Do you have a question? Oh, right. Yeah. This is all of this. And somebody's gonna have to think it up. So if it's not us, then and you had at the beginning all of the things of the ADLs, right? That
And IAD.
But lots of people can't do a lot of those, but they don't. They resist getting help. So what
Yes.
about them? I mean, it's. I hear stories upon stories upon stories of their loved ones who have become hoarders in their old age and refuse to, get any help for that because they feel they have everything under control. You hear all the time about people who need to have a doctor stop them from driving, that they absolutely give up driving until they are stripped from their cars, the keys thrown into the river.
In Santa Clara County, we have something called Adult Protective Services. You can find it by looking it up on Google. The office is very easy to find. You call and they will start taking care of you immediately. Or at least they will send somebody out to find out what's needed. They can help with hoarding. They help with other kinds of problems. They help with scams. Seniors are especially a target for scams these days. And has everybody heard about the call from the nephew who says that he's in jail and needs some money to get out of jail?
Right.
And they usually start with, Grandma, I'm in trouble. And the problem is, in my case, I don't have any grandchildren. So when the call came, I played this deal on to see what it was that he wanted. And he needed about $2,000 to get out of jail. And I said, I'm so sorry that, I don't have that kind of money to send to you. Sorry about that. Anyway, there are other kinds of scams. And
I have friends who've fallen through them.
from the police saying, "What's going on? How can we help?" They are effective. They act immediately, and they are there. You've already paid for the services through your taxes.
Great.
So-
Elna, we have another question about adult services. Do they provide transportation to doctors?
No, but there are a number of other groups that do. For instance, if you live in the Saratoga, Los Gatos areas, there's a group called RIDE, RYDE, Reach Your Destination Easily, that offers either no cost or low cost rides anywhere within about a 30-mile radius of Saratoga and Los Gatos. In Palo Alto, we have other kinds of things. There are many churches and other service organizations that offer transportation either free or low cost to where you need to go. Whether that's a doctor's office or a physical therapy office, or whether you just simply need to go shopping for groceries. A lot of these services are provided as a donation by volunteers who will drive you someplace that you need to call and make an appointment for this to happen. And then, of course, we have the bus system in Santa Clara County, which doesn't reach everywhere, but it does a reasonably good job.
I think some of the senior centers provide that service too, don't they?
Not necessarily free,
Oh,
but they will provide new information. Many of the bus routes around here stop at or very near a senior center. And the senior centers usually have brochures that will tell you how to get a hold of these people.
okay. Yeah. All of a sudden you turn purple.
Oh, yes, I have, haven't I? Thank you, remember?
No, I apologize to you. I apologize. Such as it is, have been able to hear you talk. And it certainly, you know, we're all going to run out and do at least one thing to get this going, right?
Okay.
Okay. So
Any more questions?
any more questions, speak up or send a message to everyone on chat and we will take care of it. But, you know, be sure to, you know, get in touch with Elna, and when your book comes out, we'll read it. You have some other books too, I think. You have other books, so you can look under
Well,
Elna Tymes. And
20 or 30 years ago.
oh boy, so this will be,
Now.
yeah, well, yeah, to show how many things have changed. So thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you the next time, Elna, and we'll see everybody else next month. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.